So I would like to start this webinar with this question: what is customer experience and how is it changing the way we perceive companies nowadays? And for that, I want to bring back this quote from the CEO of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, who says, "We see our customers as invited guests to a party, and we are the hosts. So it's more important every day that we provide the customer experience better and better to our customers." But before going forward, we can't ignore the fact that we are currently living in turbulent times due to the coronavirus. And here I want to give a quick snapshot of the situation. So as you all know, more than 100 countries in the world are currently in lockdown and having social distancing policies that reduce the physical interaction to the minimum, that the majority of the population is staying home, and for the employees that are able to do it, we are all doing home working or working from home. From a global perspective, because of the biggest economic powers are heavily impacted by the virus, there's also fear of an world economic recession. But as we can't predict the effect of the virus, there's also a big uncertainty towards the future. And all these changes in habits, but also in mindset, are also having a huge impact on customer behaviors and expectations. So to name some key important changes, positive ones as well, of course, is that people are moving more and more to e-commerce. And actually, the people who never trusted e-commerce or some generations who are a bit more reluctant to use it are now trying it out and they're getting used to it. There's also several solutions on autonomous delivery, whether it's from bots or from some autonomous online options. And these are examples of innovation that allow people to safely order food, products, or their necessities. That digital interactions, such as online meetings, such as actually this webinar, or some digital education offerings are becoming the new norm in the world. And that community engagement with local and your closest networks are reinforcing connections. And these are only a few examples, but there's many habits and new changes that are happening who make that every industry will have no choice but to adapt and to have a digital infrastructure up and running in the future. All this is to conclude that there's never been a more important moment to focus on customer experience, especially because during crises like this, the customers expect that we listen to them and that we adapt to their new needs, that we understand this new reality where they are living in living, working, and spending their money. But even though these facts, out of a research from Gartner, we could also see that 71% of the companies are actually, they haven't taken proactive actions to advise or to remove frictions from their customers, rather than stating that they have an emergency plan in place and that they are prepared. But companies can do much more than that, and customers are expecting this reaction. So the customers who are easily adapted to this new reality already come a bit with an advantage to the market. And to name a few examples, some financial services companies that they are proactively discussing potential worries from their customers. Some travel agents that they are proactively calling their customers before they have to call them because of their flights being cancelled or some rescheduling. So there's also always alternatives to bring a bit more customer experience. And I think that is the moment that is making the big difference. But going a bit back to basics, why is customer experience so key? And as I mentioned, it is even more key during exceptional times as we are living it now. So actually, because of many recent studies shown, then the customer experience is a bit the new key differentiator for brands, meaning that it becomes even higher in scoring than the product offering, the price, or even the reputation of the company. So it is really the new brand. And as we can see, customers are willing to pay up to 16% more in return for getting a great experience. Or in other words, 1 out of 3 customers say that they would even stop doing business with a brand that they like, that they got what they needed just because they had one single bad experience. So these are just key examples that highlight the importance of having a good customer experience to your customers. I think then the message is a bit clear. Why is it so important? But we obviously see that for utilities companies, they are not really following this trend as much as the customers expect. In fact, 80% of the customers agree that utility companies they fail to match the level of personalization that they get from pioneer companies like the Amazons, Googles, Netflix of this world. But not only that they are creating a bit of a deficit gap between these companies. So if they don't close this gap ASAP, as soon as possible, in 10 years, utilities will find it even more difficult or extremely difficult to satisfy their customer demands. So the moment to act is now and not later. And that is not only out of research or external advisors who are saying this, even within the industry, this is also a concern. And as we can see this quote from a top executive from GD Power that says that customers are getting really used to receive up-to-the-minute alerts on their home deliveries, or they are doing check-ins with their camera phones, etc. We all know this type of examples. But when they think about interacting with their utility company, whether it's to check usage, pay a bill, report an outage, or other examples, often it seems that they step back a bit to the dark ages of technology. So the question is, even if we all know that it's so important, customer experience, that is key, and the deficit that we have already now versus top players need to be tackled as soon as possible, what are the main blockers for utilities to answer these needs? And to give an answer into this question, I will give the word to my colleague Søren, who will provide a bit of what are the blockers and what are the solutions that MECOMS is having nowadays.
Customer experience is very important, but especially the utilities market is a bit lacking behind. So what are then the main blockers actually for utilities? If I go to the next slide here. So the first one we actually see is that there is actually a lack of unified experience across channels. What do we mean with that is that we see that agents in a front office call center, for example, in a front office, as a front office person, is actually unable to provide a fully complete or a fully engaged experience that has also consistency across various communication channels. So this actually leads to a lot of frustration for the business, but also for customers, because the customers itself, they don't get the right support they actually need. So that is actually one of the main blockers, or the first main blocker that we see. A second one is actually the lack of visibility and context. You need to be able to give a complete experience or a full experience to your customers. But we often also see that agents don't have the complete visibility of customers. They don't see the history. They don't have the complete context of the customer. This actually makes it difficult to also give them a very relevant and a very personalized communication towards their customers. So again, for customers, this also gives a lack of clarity, because they don't know that a front office agent has received their question. They, for example, also don't know when to receive their answer, etc. And that again leads to a lot of frustration with customers. And then a second or a third blocker that we also see for companies is that they have a lack of insights and a lack of intelligence to have the correct actions that they can take. So also agents again don't have the visibility into the customer history, and they don't have access to the right tools to actually provide them with further actionable insights that they can actually do. And again, if we look at the customer, this actually slows down their experience and causes again frictions in the interactions they have with the front office agent. So these are the three main blockers we actually see, and that's what we try to solve with MECOMS. So if we take a step back and we look at MECOMS, so MECOMS is actually the vertical solution provider for utilities. So we focus on utility companies, which can be a water company, for example. It can be a power company, it can be a gas company, a thermal company, or a combination of them. And where do we actually come from? So what we previously had in older AX versions is that you had two separate systems. So you had your CRM and you had your ERP. And again, that's a bit of the unified experience that was missing, because you had two different systems that don't really talk to each other. But what we actually see now in the Dynamics 365 platform is that they're all combined within one application, and they work together with, as you can see, different apps around Dynamics 365 They provide a lot of insights over these specific applications. And today in this webinar, we will focus more on the customer service, what you can see here, which is also one of the applications within Dynamics 365. Now, MECOMS itself is more than only customer service, of course. What you can see here, which is the platform, as you can see, there are 5 different modules: customer information system, customer engagements, meter data management, enterprise asset management, and finance and operations. Those modules are based on Azure and the application platform, which is Dynamics 365. With customer information system and meter data management, we offer a back office application for utility companies in which they can set up their products, for example, in which they can bill their customers for the energy they use. But the focus of today is on the customer engagement system, which is the front office application, which allows front office users to receive questions from customers, to give answer to their questions, and actually give the right support to the customers that they actually need. So for that, we have a focused approach on having proactive customer service, and we make use of 3 pillars for that. And with these 3 pillars, we try to actually solve the company blockers, so that they have in the end the customer experience available. And the first one is agent empowerment. So agent empowerment looks at the correct tools for the agent to actually manage the cases they receive and to solve the cases and to give the right answers to customers. The second one is personalized service. So with personalized service, we mean actually an omni-channel communication with your customer, which can be via chat, for example, which can be via phone call, via WhatsApp, via Facebook, and so on. And a third is technology unification, and that is actually having the correct insights about your customer so that you also have the ability to give a correct answer to your customer.